If I talk about the movie review of Abigail, a movie that I was looking forward to watch because of its horror elements and some implication of like certain things that you would have thought in terms of like maybe it's an implication or not. Let's start with what I kind of like understand of the film. The film premise starts with a certain kidnapping of a little girl. Not much is known except that they were going to ransom this girl for some money. Little did they know that when they were brought into a hotel, it was a bit of a the mansion. It was a bit of a trap for circumstances for the situation where their lives would be at stake. Uh, I gotta tell you how much like the film was enjoyable. A lot of elements were shock scared, and there was an aspect of like following through because I was following kind of like the implication of where references were going out, and this was a direction of it. And I would say Abigail on the stance of expression in lines of the little girl and her depiction onwards from where the story pushed outwards. Um, the thought process is I enjoyed it. It was really good. The scary movie elements were there. You can kind of see the characterization or references pushed out from certain things, which kind of made it kind of like um, engaging for me on the personal aspects because you'd say that a film production was made in lines of an invitation towards the chase of fame, unfortunately. So I'm not gonna say anything particular or specifics, but like references could be placed in lines of expectations and where the directions they go onwards. I don't know when this movie production kind of like pushed over, but like they're not the main source of where the film is directed. So the main directed source of the film is Joey. Joey is they're all put in this circumstances and situation. You can kind of get the points of like what it's used to interact with their personal stance to lines of circumstantial externalization of the movie's plot. I felt they were nicely put there without disturbing the whole storyline as a throughout. So in terms of writing, it was pretty decent, and the movie was quite had a good effects of shocking. The antagonist of this film, which is the push out factor for what drive people to come in to watch this film, was seeing a vampire ballerina. And like what I would like to say is like her role doesn't become too apparent, but they know that something sudden was happening that led on to the death of certain characters as it moved on. And I was making a good portion of like trying to like follow through the storyline, was remembering a name in particular. I'm not gonna judge. I'm just gonna say Joey's name was thoroughly said several times. So as I was following through the story, so I could follow that in better comparison, which were in general nicknames in context for where later on the story was coming on to. The bridging point of the story was at this point was when the revelation was that the ballerina was a vampire, and the externalization of each character's well, it's a survival fest. So I gotta say that in a most kind of like most polite way. So this movie had a lot of cool elements in terms of certain Easter egg reference jokes that I like to say. I'm going from things that were kind of shocking. I would say the application of like I found it really funny that to to like end a externalized circumstances, they took the book of the title and said, "It all ends here." Pulls it out and thinking this was concluded and just feeling frustrated. That was hilarious. uh, the aspect of a dancing death ball actually made it quite cool, actually, for me. I liked how they was taking control and a differentiation of a personalized character as she was turning herself. So Catherine Newton turning herself into a vampire and preparing to like assassinate the other colleagues at this point as they were preparing for a heist, for what I understood in terms of like circumstantial issues. And I like that differentiation in terms of like characterization of her personality as she was playing through the role of the film. And where I think it stands is like um, what else do I take in lines of that? Well, that is the biggest thing I would like to stress out. I guess is just like when they have to play a different character and then change into something that's believable into a different what's it called? You can see the difference. You can see the difference from seeing them in one personification to another, which is what I like to observe in terms of like really getting into really getting to the plot of it, right? You can see a good appreciation of like a sudden change of personality is the best way to say it. Okay, so that takes some context for that aspects that I thought was fun, and leading on to the concluding part where the conversation was led to where the ballerina was there. And on a snippet of a joke, I'm going to say in lines of things because people thought it would be fun. People in the audience around me were laughing at different points in time, so they were all getting impressions of different aspects were being kind of funny for them. For me, really getting into the grasp of it and just trying because I was pretty engaged into that film. Actually, I was having a fun time just watching a horror film and seeing the blood core of people's bodies. Kind of like mentally depicting as well a good impression of like certain things that could come in lines of like my content creation, in lines of like where I could channel this, and I have an idea as well. So I like to also kind of like bring out the part of the conversation because like I kind of link it in terms of like personification in lines of the ballerina's life. The ballerina's life is that of this tragic tale of saying that she's um, she has distortion with her family board of values, and I take it comical to say that maybe there's a stance of like something about them that I didn't know them in a more personal sense. So that kind of things was kind of like nicely fine touched for me to like enjoy. Does that make sense? And the caricature of it brings in lines of well, it's depiction of that they couldn't kill it, but like also the turn of events because Lambert, I believe Lambert being the butler or the one introducing them to the sequence of events for where they led on for the character of capturing Abigail was that it's subtly in the plot. Uh, um, yeah, something in the plot, Lambert was trying to take control of power. So like each character had its own kind of motives in this sense, and it was pretty gruesome, pretty good. It does make me remember of another survival like horror story, but I feel this one was better. It's like Wedding Crashers or something like that. It's a different one that I feel the comparison there, but it's like vampire elements and more of a intellectual maturity humor rather than say it's a bit more of a modernization of humor. Like one of the horror films, it was just like the guy they needed to kill each other and you need to use crossbow. The guy looks at his phone to you kill the crossbow. These guys are on the spot and they have stuff that they are in a circumstance where everything's locked out and they are like in the situation of trying to uh trying to like I guess like what's the word um figure out what was going on once where they were stuck, which was cool because it initiates a good portion of curiosity. You're not sure, and they didn't tell you straight away what it is. So that was a good leading point for development of the story plot for horror. The unknown makes you feel kind of like on guard as you keep watching and seeing the engagement. And then later on, you can pick up the pieces as movie progresses at the end. So Lambert probably attacked, in my opinion, killing two of the victims. Um, the one at the beginning, I can't remember too much. Is some guy wearing a teddy bear shirt, unfortunately. And like the other one was, I think he was attacking. Oh yeah, Rickle. Rickle, yes. So we're trying to like stay away from like references there for the sake of like maturity, and I don't think it's appropriate at the stage that we're in. But Rickles was also torn apart, and also to the point of saying because like it has a personal circumstances, but like I'm fed up. Wisney's means kind of pushed out here in the context of my watching, so it's like um, stop using main references on main characters and an implication on a person of color. And that's the best way. That's the best way to say you avoid the traps set in because this is out of lines of maturity of a little girl. So I like to also push out that the sorry the movie I was referencing in terms of like my analogy of like enjoying it, but this is better. This is much better. Was Ready or Not? And um, where did I take it? Said is like near the end, the Penelope part after like you see like the story unfold and the characters kind of like flesh out and they all have their own intent in it, which is why I feel like the dynamic of the story is felt a lot natural to me. It's just like each character had some kind of like their own personal agenda when they were going about to do things. I felt it wasn't like their movie felt like they were trying to overemphasize something, right? More like there was more I guess there was more the interaction felt more like a bit more natural. That's about what I felt in lines of this. It felt better for me to watch this in terms of like group thing, in terms of like film's chemistry dynamics. That's one way of saying it. And what do you call it? There was a Frank turning point of like in the film because he's playing the main antagonist for the final scene at the end. And when it comes down to Frank taking control over Lambert's situation, and after that finalized to the point of like facing versus Abigail, and the pinnacle parts of like them doing the final part because the main heroine inevitably also goes Joey goes into a circumstances where she's trying to fight off uh, we're in for a circumstance of the final scene as just a fight off in terms of survival. Decided to team up with the little girl empathetic in her circumstances and fight off the final threat that was taking in lines of the movie. Very good. So like in a sense, like Abigail is she's casted in the trailer as the main villain, but she's later on takes on the circumstances of like aiding the main heroine in lines of like another character that comes out into power in terms of unexpectedness in terms of like building. And I thought that was fun. I thought it was a great way of plot developing and actually running its course in terms of like power dynamic change of the circumstances. Now, I'd like to say it's just like people were talking about nonsense and laughter. I was just like funny things people will do when they think you're going into madness. I think I'm gonna conclude this as like short summary of like the film. I hope you guys check it out yourself and watch it and enjoy it. I don't know if I've kind of like I would say this is more of a review rather than the stance of like really like summarizing everything. It has more elements of like action, uh, scary elements. Not so much emphasis on like of uh, making the audience feel scared. Like in the sense, that's why I think Insidious is one of the better masterpieces of horror movies. They really put they don't use too much, but they do elements to like really try to get the audience feels scared about some parts. This one had a good depiction of like horror elements, starting out being a bit putting you on the fence of things, maybe getting you startled, to the point where it becomes a bit of an action sequence of the film, and with character and finesse, was a dancing element, being a ballerina and all that. For me, as well, the personalized things of like interaction and lines of like, well, it was a mean gag film, so yeah. Thank you. Hey everyone, thank you for putting the effort to watch the effort I placed on making something of an entertaining video. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said before, it's not forced, but like I really would appreciate any contribution and support you give to this channel, as it gives me more motivation and more incentive to enjoy more video creating and content creation. If you find that the content's drifts away at any point, you can always unsubscribe. It's no big deal. Again, it doesn't mean much. It doesn't take much from you, but it means a whole bunch of me. And it would feel great if you would just reward my efforts of trying to be, positive and contributionary. Thank you so much. Bye.